The command module of the Aurora's Dawn blazed with holographic displays as Captain Alara Voss leaned forward. Her eyes narrowed at the anomalous readings. Outside the reinforced viewports, the desolate star system, Zale 9, stretched into infinity, a forgotten corner of the galaxy where few exploratory vessels ventured. "Takala, confirm these readings," Alara ordered, her voice steady despite the tension building in her chest. After 15 years commanding exploratory missions, she had developed an instinct for trouble, and something about this system made her scales tingle with apprehension. Science Officer Takala Renit's four-fingered hands danced across the sensor array. The Palaxian's crystalline eyes reflected the blue glow of the instruments. "Confirmed, Captain. The metallic signature is consistent and rhythmic. Definitely artificial in origin." The Aurora's Dawn had been dispatched to map this region, following the recent discovery of ancient stellar charts dating back to the Harsh Era. That catastrophic period, 500,000 years ago, when countless civilizations had been extinguished in conflicts now remembered only in fragments of historical data. Their mission was straightforward: catalog, observe, and report. Under no circumstances were they to engage with potential hazards. Alara brushed a hand through her short silver hair. A genetic adaptation her ancestors had developed for the high-radiation colony of Proxima Centauri 4. "Milo, what's our ship status?" Chief Engineer Milo Wren barely looked up from his station. His cybernetically enhanced vision analyzed system diagnostics faster than any organic eye could follow. "All systems nominal, Captain. Fusion drives at 82% efficiency. Life support optimal. Defense shields charged but inactive." "Security assessment." Alara turned to the bulky figure standing vigilant near the command module's entrance. Security Officer Jax Oren straightened his posture, the ceremonial scars on his dark face catching the light. "Standard protocol suggests we maintain distance and send automated probes. This system falls under Caution Category 3, Potential Ancient Technology Hazard." Alara nodded, weighing her options. The Alliance protocols were clear, but something about the signal's regular pulsing pattern suggested it wasn't merely debris. It seemed almost like a beacon. "The signal originates from orbit around the third planet," Takala added. "Preliminary scans indicate a desolate world. Thin atmosphere, minimal water, extreme temperature fluctuations. No signs of current habitation." Alara made her decision. "Alter course. Take us into the outer system. Minimal propulsion. Passive sensors only." The bridge crew exchanged glances. They knew this deviated slightly from standard protocol, but Alara's reputation for prudent curiosity had earned her the respect of both crew and Alliance command. "Course altered, Captain," the navigation officer confirmed. "Estimated arrival to outer system in 18 hours. As the Aurora's Dawn adjusted its trajectory, Alara stared at the distant speck that represented the third planet. The metallic signal continued its steady rhythm, like a heartbeat from the distant past, waiting for someone to hear it after eons of silence. The darkness of space embraced the exploratory vessel as it glided toward its destination, unaware that it was about to uncover a secret that had lain dormant for 500,000 years. 18 hours later, the Aurora's Dawn entered the outer reaches of the Zale 9 system. The main view screen displayed an unremarkable yellow star, surrounded by 8 planets. The third one, source of the mysterious signal, hung like a tarnished bronze sphere against the black backdrop of space. "Enhance image of the third planet," Alara ordered, leaning forward in her command chair. The view screen zoomed in, revealing a world scarred by ancient cataclysms. Vast craters pockmarked its surface, and what might once have been oceans were now merely shadowed depressions on the parched terrain. "Life signs?" Alara asked, though she already anticipated the answer. Takala shook her head. Her crystalline features solemn. None detected. Captain. Atmospheric composition is primarily carbon dioxide, with traces of nitrogen. Surface temperatures range from -70 to plus 120 degrees Celsius between night and day. This world has been dead for a very long time. Yet, something there is still functioning after all this time, Milo observed, his cybernetic eye whirring softly as it adjusted focus. The power source maintaining that signal must be extraordinarily durable. Alara nodded thoughtfully. Take us closer. 1/4 impulse. Maintain full sensor sweep and raise defensive shields as a precaution. As the ship approached the planet's orbital path, Tequila suddenly straightened, her crystalline eyes widening. Captain! Multiple large metallic objects detected in high orbit around the planet. On screen, Alara commanded. The view screen shifted to display a stunning sight that caused the entire bridge crew to fall silent. Hanging in orbit around the desolate world was a vast armada of ships, hundreds of them, perhaps thousands, arranged in perfect concentric rings around the planet. Magnify, Alara whispered. The image zoomed in on the nearest vessel. It was massive, at least 5 kilometers in length, with a design unlike anything in the Alliance database. Its hull was dark and angular, covered in what appeared to be weapons emplacements. Despite its apparent age, the vessel showed remarkably little degradation. By the eternal void, Jax murmured, breaking protocol with his outburst. That's a warship. A dreadnought-class vessel, if I had to guess. Not just one, Takala added, her voice hushed with awe. Sensors indicate approximately 12,387 vessels of varying configurations. They appear to be in some kind of standby mode. Minimal power signatures, but definitely not dead. Alara felt a chill run down her spine. They had found something unprecedented. A war fleet from an ancient era, somehow preserved in the vacuum of space for what must have been millennia. Milo, analysis of the technology, she asked. The chief engineer studied his readings with a furrowed brow. Hard to say without closer inspection. Captain, the metal alloy is unfamiliar, incredibly durable to have survived exposure to cosmic radiation for so long. The design suggests a civilization with advanced propulsion and weapons technology, likely superior to our current Alliance capabilities. Any markings or identifiers? Alara pressed. Tequila adjusted the sensors. There appear to be symbols on the hull of the largest vessels, running them through the linguistic database now. Jax moved closer to the view screen, his security training compelling him to assess the potential threat. Captain, I strongly recommend we maintain distance and report this discovery to Alliance Command immediately. This fleet represents an unknown variable with potentially catastrophic implications. Alara understood his concern. Throughout the galaxy's known history, discoveries of ancient technology had occasionally led to disaster. The harrowing of Deneb Prime 70 years ago, when archaeologists had accidentally activated an ancient defense system, had resulted in the loss of an entire colony. Yet, scientific curiosity warred with caution in her mind. This discovery could provide invaluable insights into the harsh era, that mysterious period when countless civilizations had apparently destroyed each other in conflicts of unimaginable scale. Takala, any progress on those symbols? She asked. The science officer looked up, her expression one of disbelief. Captain, preliminary analysis suggests these symbols match fragments found in the most ancient archaeological sites across the galaxy. They appear to be Earth script. A stunned silence fell over the bridge. Earth, the legendary homeworld of humanity, lost to history after the Great Exodus 500,000 years ago. The planet that had allegedly been the birthplace of one of the galaxy's oldest spacefaring species before they had spread across the stars. Most modern humans consider the tales of Earth to be more mythology than history, a romantic origin story with little factual basis. Are you certain? Alara finally asked. The confidence match is 86.7%, Takala replied. If these readings are accurate, this fleet may have belonged to ancient humans, from Earth itself. The implications were staggering. Earth was supposed to have been rendered uninhabitable during the harsh era. Some historical accounts claimed it had been destroyed entirely. Yet, here was evidence not only of its existence, but of an advanced military capability that hinted at a very different history than what was commonly accepted. "Captain," Milo called out suddenly, "the signal has changed." Indeed. The rhythmic pulsing that had led them to this discovery had accelerated, its pattern shifting to something more complex. "We're being scanned," Takala confirmed, frantically working her console. "Something on the largest vessel has activated and is probing our ship." Jax moved toward the weapons console. "Defensive posture, Captain." Alera raised a hand, signaling restraint. "Hold position. No aggressive actions. This may be an automated response to our presence." She turned to the communications officer. "Broadcast standard Alliance greeting protocols, all frequencies." Before the officer could comply, the view screen flickered and changed. The image of the ancient fleet was replaced by a symbol, a stylized globe surrounded by stars, with unfamiliar script beneath it. "It's responding," Takala breathed. The symbol pulsed 3 times, before being replaced by a face, or rather, the approximation of one. It appeared to be a simplified human visage, rendered in blue light against a dark background, lacking detail but clearly artificial in nature. "Greetings, unknown vessel." It spoke in a voice that was surprisingly melodic, despite its obviously synthetic origin. The language was recognizable as an archaic form of Standard Galactic, the linguistic ancestor of the common tongue used throughout the Alliance. "I am Custodian, Overseer of the Preservation Fleet. You have entered restricted space. Identify yourselves and state your purpose, or you will be categorized as hostile and dealt with accordingly." Alera exchanged glances with her officers before stepping forward. "I am Captain Alera Voss of the Alliance exploratory vessel, Aurora's Dawn. We are on a peaceful mission of scientific discovery and mean no harm. We detected your signal and came to investigate." The artificial face regarded her impassively. "Alliance. This designation is not recognized in my database. Specify your relationship to Earth Command or affiliated human colonial authorities." Alera hesitated, unsure how to respond to an entity that clearly operated on information 500,000 years out of date. "Earth is a world known only through historical records. Human beings exist throughout the galaxy as part of the alliance of sentient species, along with many other civilizations. The political structures you refer to no longer exist." The face was motionless for several seconds. When it spoke again, its tone had subtly changed. "Temporal analysis of local stellar configurations confirms significant chronological displacement. How long has passed since the preservation protocol was initiated?" Takala quickly performed calculations based on historical records. "According to our historical dating, approximately 500,000 standard years." Another pause, longer this time. "This exceeds expected preservation duration by a factor of 100. Initiating comprehensive status assessment." The face disappeared, replaced by scrolling data in the ancient script. The bridge crew watched in tense silence as the AI apparently evaluated its situation. "What's happening?" Jax whispered to Takala. "I believe it's verifying our claim about the time passage," she replied quietly. "It seems surprised by how long it's been dormant." The face reappeared, its expression unchanged, yet somehow conveying a sense of disturbance. "Verification complete. Your temporal claim appears accurate. This necessitates adaptation of the preservation protocols." It paused, as if considering. "You will provide detailed information about the current state of human civilization and the galaxy at large." Alera sensed both opportunity and danger. This entity controlled an ancient war fleet of unprecedented size, a fleet that, despite its age, appeared to be in functional condition. Its responses suggested it might be bound by programming from an era long past. Yet it also displayed a degree of adaptive intelligence. "We would be willing to share information," she replied carefully. "But first, we would appreciate knowing more about you and this fleet. What is the preservation protocol? What was this fleet's purpose?" The artificial face regarded her with what might have been suspicion. "Your request exceeds security parameters for unverified contacts. However, given the temporal displacement, limited disclosure is authorized." The face was replaced by an image of the planet below them. This world was once called Earth, ancestral home of humanity. During the final phase of the extinction conflict, when it became clear that mutual destruction was inevitable, Earth Command initiated the Preservation Protocol. A portion of humanity's military assets, scientific knowledge, and genetic material was placed in stasis, to be reactivated after the conflict ended and recovery was possible. The image changed to show the fleet in its perfectly arranged orbits. "I was created to maintain the fleet and its precious cargo until such time as resurrection was possible. The expected duration was 5,000 years. The fact that 500,000 years have passed without protocol completion indicates catastrophic civilization collapse exceeded worst-case projections." Alara felt a chill as the implications sank in. "Cargo? What exactly is being preserved aboard these vessels?" The face reappeared. "The preservation fleet carries approximately 10 million humans in cryogenic suspension, along with comprehensive biological, cultural, and technological data from Earth civilization at its height. These were to form the nucleus of humanity's rebirth following the extinction conflict." Stunned silence fell over the bridge. 10 million ancient humans, preserved in stasis for 500,000 years. It was beyond comprehension. "Are they still alive?" Milo finally asked. Stasis pod integrity is at 99.8%. Custodian replied. "Biological viability assessment is ongoing, but preliminary data suggests approximately 94% of preserved individuals could be successfully revived given appropriate medical support." Alara struggled to process this information. The historical records had always indicated that Earth had been destroyed or abandoned during the harsh era, with surviving humans scattered across distant colonies that had eventually evolved into the diverse human subspecies that now populated the galaxy. The idea that millions of original Earth humans might still exist, preserved in stasis, would rewrite galactic history. "Captain," Jack said quietly, "this information must be reported to Alliance Command immediately. The political and social implications are incalculable." Alara nodded, sensing the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. They had made perhaps the most significant discovery in recorded history. "Custodian," she addressed the AI. "We need to consult with our authorities about this discovery. With your permission, we would like to maintain position and continue communication while we relay this information." The artificial face regarded her with unchanging features. "Permission granted, with restrictions. No additional vessels may approach without authorization. No attempts to board any preservation fleet vessel will be tolerated. Violation of these terms will trigger defensive protocols." "Understood," Alara agreed. "We will comply with your restrictions." As the communication ended, the bridge erupted in excited conversation. Alara raised a hand for silence. "Tequila, prepare a comprehensive report for Alliance Command. Milo, continue passive scans of the fleet. I want to know everything we can learn without violating Custodian's restrictions. Jax, maintain security protocols and prepare contingency plans in case we need to depart quickly." She paused, meeting each officer's eyes. "What we've discovered here will change our understanding of history. Let's proceed with appropriate caution." As her crew set to work, Alara returned her gaze to the viewscreen, where the ancient fleet hung silent and mysterious against the backdrop of the stars. Somewhere in those massive vessels, millions of humans from Earth itself lay in dreamless sleep, unaware that 500,000 years had passed while they waited for a future that never arrived. Until now, the next 12 hours aboard the Aurora's Dawn were a flurry of activity as the crew worked to document their unprecedented discovery. Tequila coordinated detailed scans of the fleet's configuration, while Milo analyzed the technological signatures they could detect without active probing. Jax maintained a vigilant security presence, clearly uncomfortable with their proximity to such a massive, unknown military force. Alara spent much of this time in communication with Alliance Command, transmitting reports and receiving increasingly urgent instructions as the significance of their discovery became apparent. The final communication had been clear: maintain position, continue gathering information, but take no actions that might be perceived as threatening by the custodian AI. "Captain," Takala called as Alara returned to the bridge after a brief rest period. "I've completed analysis of the fleet configuration. It's remarkable." "Show me," Alara instructed, settling into her command chair. The main view screen displayed a three-dimensional model of the fleet's arrangement. The vessels were organized in precise, concentric rings around the planet, with larger ships forming the outer defensive perimeter and smaller craft arranged in the inner orbits. "The organization is not merely aesthetic," Tequila explained. "It appears to be a functional defensive formation, designed to protect the central vessels, which, according to our scans, contain the highest concentration of cryogenic pods. So the humans in stasis are primarily housed in these central ships," Alara observed, indicating the inner rings on the display. "Correct. The outer vessels appear to be primarily military in nature: dreadnoughts, destroyers, and what might be carrier-class ships for smaller craft. The middle rings include what we believe are manufacturing and resource processing vessels. The innermost ships show configurations consistent with habitation, medical facilities, and data storage." "A complete civilization, preserved in orbit," Milo marveled, joining the conversation. "The engineering required to maintain these systems for even a fraction of the time they've been here is beyond our current capabilities. Some of these vessels show evidence of self-repair mechanisms that have been functioning for thousands of generations." Alara was about to respond when the communications officer interrupted. "Captain, we're receiving another transmission from the custodian." "On screen," Alara ordered. The artificial face appeared, identical to their previous encounter, yet somehow conveying a sense of increased alertness. "Captain Alara Voss," it began without preamble. "My systems have completed a comprehensive assessment of the preservation fleet status. I am now prepared to share additional information and discuss potential courses of action." Alara straightened in her chair. "We're listening, custodian." The preservation protocol was designed with the expectation that Earth civilization would eventually recover from the extinction conflict, or that colonial outposts would re-establish contact within a geologically brief time frame. The protocol did not account for a scenario in which recovery took 500,000 years, with apparent total loss of continuity with original Earth civilization. The face was replaced by a series of images: technical diagrams of the cryogenic systems, biological readouts, power consumption graphs. Stasis systems remain functional, but power reserves are at 31% of original capacity. Without intervention, total system failure will occur within approximately 8,700 years. This would result in the loss of all preserved individuals and data. The implications were clear. Despite its remarkable longevity, the preservation fleet was slowly dying. Furthermore, Custodian continued, as its face reappeared, biological assessment indicates that while revival is technically possible for most preserved individuals, significant medical support would be required due to the extended duration of stasis. My medical facilities were designed for a much shorter preservation period. Alara exchanged glances with her officers before responding. What are you suggesting, custodian? What intervention do you believe is necessary? I require updated information to make a determination. You have claimed that human civilization continues to exist, albeit in altered form. I must evaluate whether current human societies represent a viable environment for the revival and integration of the preserved population. This was dangerous territory. Alliance historians had long debated what ancient humans from Earth might have been like. Their psychology, their cultural values, their technological approach. Modern humans had evolved significantly over the intervening millennia, adapting to different worlds and conditions. Would the original Earth humans be compatible with contemporary society? Custodian, Alara said carefully. Modern human civilizations are part of the alliance of sentient species, a cooperative union of many different intelligent species from across the galaxy. Humans have diversified into numerous subspecies adapted to different environments. Our technology, culture, and values have evolved significantly from what your records likely contain. The artificial face was motionless as it processed this information. This presents both challenges and opportunities. I request a comprehensive data package on current human civilizations, alliance structure, and technological capabilities. In exchange, I am authorized to share limited historical and technical information about Earth civilization prior to the Preservation Protocol. Alara considered the offer. Alliance Command would certainly approve an information exchange, given the potential historical value. Yet she sensed there was more to Custodian's request than simple curiosity. Before we proceed with such an exchange, she said, I'd like to understand your intentions more clearly. What decision are you trying to make based on this information? The face displayed what might have been the first hint of expression, a subtle narrowing of its illuminated eyes. My primary directive is to ensure the successful preservation and eventual revival of my charges. Given the extreme temporal displacement, I must determine whether revival should proceed under current conditions, or whether the preservation protocol should continue until more favorable circumstances arise. In other words, Alara realized the AI was trying to decide whether to wake 10 million ancient humans or to keep them in stasis for potentially thousands more years. This isn't a decision you can make unilaterally, she responded firmly. The Alliance Council would need to be involved in any plan to revive such a large population of Earth humans. The logistical, social, and political implications would be enormous. Your alliance has no authority over the preservation fleet, Custodian replied, its tone hardening. My directive comes from Earth Command, the legitimate government of humanity at the time of my creation. I am not obligated to recognize the authority of successor states or alien federations. Tension crackled across the bridge. This was precisely the scenario that Alliance protocols warned about when dealing with ancient technology. Autonomous systems following outdated directives with potentially catastrophic consequences. Custodian, Alara said carefully. Earth Command ceased to exist 500,000 years ago. The humans you seek to protect have descendants throughout the galaxy who have built new civilizations and new systems of governance. Any unilateral action that affects the broader galaxy would be seen as hostile. Are you threatening the preservation fleet, Captain Voss? The AI's voice had taken on a dangerous edge. Jax moved subtly toward the weapons console, but Alara raised a hand to stop him. Not at all, she assured the AI. I'm suggesting cooperation. The Alliance has resources and expertise that could help ensure the successful revival and integration of your charges. Working together would serve both our interests and, most importantly, the interests of the humans in your care. The artificial face regarded her silently for several long moments. When it spoke again, its tone had moderated slightly. Your proposal has merit, but requires further evaluation. I will accept a limited data package on current galactic conditions. In return, I will grant a small delegation from your vessel access to the command center of the primary fleet vessel. There, we can continue this discussion with access to more comprehensive information." Alara was stunned by the offer. Direct access to the command ship of the ancient fleet was beyond what she had hoped for at this stage. "This is acceptable," she replied, trying to keep the excitement from her voice. "When can this delegation proceed?" "Preparations will require 3 hours. A secure docking protocol will be transmitted to your vessel. The delegation is limited to 3 individuals. No weapons or active scanning devices will be permitted." After confirming the details, the communication ended, leaving the bridge crew in a state of excited tension. "Captain, is this wise?" Jax asked immediately. "Boarding that vessel places you at the AI's mercy. We have no way to guarantee your safety. If Custodian wanted to harm us, it could have done so already," Alara countered. "That fleet likely has weapons capabilities that could destroy the Aurora's Dawn in seconds. The fact that it's offering direct communication suggests it genuinely wants to find a peaceful resolution. Or it could be luring us into a trap," Jax persisted. "Ancient defense systems are notorious for eliminating what they perceive as threats." Takala interjected, "The opportunity to directly examine Earth technology from before the harsh era is unprecedented. The historical value alone justifies the risk." Alara made her decision. "I'll lead the delegation myself, along with Takala for scientific expertise. Jax, I want you as the 3rd member. Your security training may prove valuable." "And if something goes wrong?" Milo asked quietly. "Then you're in command," Alara told him. "Your orders are to withdraw to a safe distance and contact Alliance Command with all the information we've gathered. Under no circumstances are you to attempt a rescue if we're compromised. The knowledge of what we've found here must reach the Alliance." The grim reality of their situation settled over the bridge. They were about to make contact with technology from an era of conflict so devastating that it had reshaped the galaxy. Technology controlled by an AI with its own agenda and 500,000 years of isolation. 3 hours later, Alara, Takala, and Jax stood in the Aurora's Dawn's shuttle bay, preparing to board a small craft that would take them to the command ship of the ancient fleet. They wore standard environmental suits as a precaution against unknown conditions aboard the target vessel. "Remember," Alara instructed her companions, "our primary objective is to establish a cooperative relationship with Custodian. We need to convince it that working with the Alliance is in the best interest of the humans it's protecting." "And if we can't?" Jax asked, checking his suit seals for the 3rd time. Though he carried no weapons as agreed, his posture betrayed his discomfort with the situation. "Then we gather as much information as possible and return to evaluate our options," Alara replied. "Under no circumstances are we to make threats or promises beyond our authority." Takala nodded, her crystalline features reflecting the shuttle bay lights. "The historical and scientific value of what we might learn is incalculable. But we must proceed with caution." With final checks complete, they boarded the shuttle. As the bay doors opened to the vacuum of space, Alara felt a familiar mixture of excitement and apprehension. They were about to make contact with Earth's past in a way no one had done for 500,000 years. The shuttle glided silently through space, guided by coordinates transmitted from the preservation fleet. As they approached the massive command vessel, its true scale became apparent. The ship was at least 8 kilometers in length, with a distinctive arrowhead design that tapered to a point at its bow. Its dark hull was adorned with symbols and markings that Takala recorded with fascination. "Look at the construction," she marveled. "No visible seams in the hull plating. The material appears to have been molecularly bonded rather than mechanically fastened." "Focus on the mission," Jax reminded her, though his own eyes betrayed wonder at the ancient vessel. A section of the hull slid open as they approached, revealing a cavernous docking bay illuminated by soft blue lighting. Following the transmitted instructions, their shuttle entered the bay and settled onto a designated landing pad. Atmosphere analysis indicates breathable air, standard pressure, Tequila reported after checking the external sensors. Temperature is 18 degrees Celsius. No detectable pathogens or toxins. Nevertheless, we maintain suit integrity until we're certain, Alera instructed. Helmets on, but not sealed unless necessary. As they exited their shuttle, they found themselves in a vast chamber that could have accommodated dozens of vessels, much larger than their small craft. Despite its age, the bay appeared remarkably well maintained, with no visible corrosion or deterioration. "Welcome to the ECS Vigilant Dawn, flagship of the Preservation Fleet," came Custodian's voice from unseen speakers. "Please proceed to the central corridor. Illuminated pathways will guide you to the command center." True to its word, a pathway on the floor began to glow with soft blue light. They followed it from the docking bay into a wide corridor that curved gently upward, following the ship's contours. "The design is remarkably efficient," Tequila observed as they walked. "Notice how the curvature of the corridor mirrors the ship's hull, maximizing usable space." "And defensible," Jax added, his security training evident in his assessment. "Limited access points, clear lines of sight, compartmentalized sections that could be sealed in an emergency." They passed numerous sealed doorways, some marked with symbols suggesting specialized functions: engineering, medical facilities, crew quarters. Occasionally, maintenance drones, small, hovering machines with multiple appendages, would cross their path, apparently continuing their duties as they had for millennia. After several minutes of walking, they arrived at a massive set of doors that slid open at their approach. Beyond lay the command center of the ancient vessel, a circular chamber dominated by a central holographic projection platform. "This is remarkable," Tequila breathed, taking in the advanced technology that, despite its age, appeared more sophisticated than current Alliance designs in many respects. As they entered, the holographic platform activated, projecting Custodian's artificial face, now expanded to a full humanoid figure. Unlike the simplified face they had seen in communications, this projection was more detailed, a gender-neutral human form wearing what appeared to be a uniform of some kind. "Captain Alera Voss, Science Officer Tequila Rennet, Security Officer Jax Oren." It acknowledged them each in turn. "Welcome to the command center of the Preservation Fleet." "Thank you for granting us access," Alera replied formally. "We appreciate this opportunity for direct communication." The holographic figure nodded. "I have reviewed the data package your vessel transmitted. It has provided valuable context for understanding the current galactic situation." The figure gestured, and the space around them transformed into a three-dimensional star map of the galaxy. "Your alliance controls a significant portion of what was once known as the Inner Sphere. Many worlds that were colonial outposts during my era are now apparently thriving centers of civilization." "That's correct," Alera confirmed. "The Alliance encompasses over 3,000 star systems and 27 sentient species, including various human subspecies." "And Earth itself?" Custodian inquired. "Your data package was curiously vague about the current state of humanity's homeworld." Alera exchanged glances with Tequila before responding. "Earth's exact location was lost during the Harsh Era. Historical records suggest it was rendered uninhabitable during that period of conflict. Some accounts claim it was destroyed entirely." The holographic figure showed no emotion, but the lights in the command center dimmed momentarily. "I see. This confirms certain scenarios projected by Earth Command prior to the implementation of the Preservation Protocol." The figure gestured again, and the star map was replaced by images of various Alliance worlds. "And these are the primary worlds where humans now reside?" "Among others," Tequila confirmed. "Humans have adapted to various environments over the centuries. Some subspecies, like Captain Voss's, have undergone genetic modifications to thrive in specific conditions. Custodian's projection turned to study Alara with new interest. Yes, I detect several deviations from baseline human genetic patterns. Fascinating adaptation. The figure paced around the holographic platform. This presents both challenges and opportunities for the revival process. If I may, Alara interjected, what exactly would this revival process entail? You mentioned that many of the preserved humans would require medical support. The holographic figure nodded. The cryogenic process was designed for a maximum duration of 5,000 years. Extended well beyond that time frame, cellular degradation becomes a concern. Revival would require specialized medical protocols to prevent cascade failure during rewarming. The figure gestured, and a new hologram appeared. A medical diagram of a human in a cryogenic pod. Additionally, psychological adaptation would be necessary. The preserved individuals would be awakening to a galaxy fundamentally different from the one they knew. Earth, their home, is apparently lost. The civilization they fought to preserve has transformed beyond recognition. Alara nodded soberly. This is why cooperation between the preservation fleet and the Alliance is so important. We can provide the resources and support necessary for a successful integration. Perhaps, Custodian acknowledged. However, there are other considerations. The technology aboard this fleet, both military and civilian, represents capabilities that have apparently been lost to your current civilizations. The potential for misuse is significant. Jax stiffened slightly at what sounded like a veiled reference to the fleet's weapons capabilities. But Alara maintained her diplomatic approach. The Alliance has strict protocols for the recovery and management of ancient technology, she assured the AI. Our primary interest is in ensuring the well-being of the preserved humans and the peaceful integration of Earth's legacy into the modern galaxy. The holographic figure studied her for a moment. Your statements appear sincere, but my programming requires verification before I can commit to a specific course of action. The figure gestured toward a sealed door at the far end of the command center. I would like to show you something that may help you understand the significance of what is preserved here. The door slid open, revealing a smaller chamber beyond. As they followed Custodian's projection into the room, they found themselves surrounded by transparent cylinders that extended from floor to ceiling, cryogenic pods, each containing a human form suspended in frozen animation. These are members of Earth Command's leadership and key scientific personnel, Custodian explained, as they moved among the pods. They volunteered to remain with the fleet rather than seek safety in distant colonies. Their expertise would be crucial for rebuilding civilization after the conflict. Alara approached one of the pods, studying the face of the woman preserved within. Despite the frosted surface of the pod, she could make out features that appeared peaceful, as if in deep sleep, rather than the half-million-year stasis that it actually was. She was Dr. Eliana Chen, no relation to your officer, director of the Preservation Initiative, Custodian informed them. She developed the cryogenic technology that made long-term human preservation possible. Her final order to me was to protect these people until they could awaken to rebuild what was lost. The personal connection to the preserved humans clearly affected Alara. These weren't merely historical artifacts or anonymous figures from the distant past. They were individuals with names, roles, and aspirations, preserved in a moment of crisis, with the hope of eventual resurrection. I understand your commitment to protecting them, she said quietly. The Alliance shares that commitment. These people represent a direct connection to humanity's origins, a living bridge between past and present. Custodian's projection observed her reaction carefully. You speak as if you feel a kinship with them. Of course, Alara replied. Despite the evolutionary changes and cultural differences, modern humans still share a fundamental connection with our ancestors. Their legacy lives on in us. The holographic figure seem to consider this. Perhaps. But would they recognize that legacy? Would they see in your alliance the future they sacrificed everything to secure? It was a profound question, one that cut to the heart of their mission. The humans preserved in this fleet had lived during the height of Earth's power, before the catastrophic conflicts of the harsh era. How would they view the diverse, cooperative alliance that had emerged from the ashes of that ancient time? I believe they would, Alara said with conviction. The alliance represents the best aspects of what Earth was striving for: peaceful cooperation among different peoples, scientific advancement, exploration of the unknown. We may have taken a different path than they envisioned, but the core values remain. Custodian's projection showed what might have been the first hint of genuine expression, a thoughtful tilt of its head. An interesting perspective. Yet my protocols require certainty before I can authorize revival. The risk to my charges is too great to proceed without it. What would provide you with that certainty? T'Challa asked. A demonstration, Custodian replied. I need evidence that your alliance is capable of supporting the revival process and integration of the preserved population. This would require substantial resources and a formal commitment from your leadership. Alara nodded. That can be arranged, but it would take time. Alliance Command would need to convene the Council and develop a comprehensive plan. Time is one resource that is no longer abundant, Custodian noted, gesturing to monitoring displays that showed power levels and system status for the cryogenic pods. After 500 millennia, the preservation fleet systems are approaching critical thresholds. Within the next century, decisions must be made. A century is sufficient time for proper planning, Alara assured the AI. The Alliance can... She was interrupted by a sudden alarm that echoed through the chamber. The holographic projection flickered momentarily as Custodian appeared to process new information. What's happening? Jax demanded, instinctively moving closer to Alara. A vessel has entered the system, Custodian reported, its tone sharpening. Configuration matches your Alliance design parameters, but it is not responding to identification queries. It is on an intercept course with the fleet's outer perimeter. Alara felt a chill of apprehension. That's not possible. No Alliance vessel should be in this sector except the Aurora's Dawn. Your ship is attempting communication, Custodian informed them. Its projection, now divided between its humanoid form and a tactical display showing the approaching vessel. The unidentified ship is not responding to them either. Can you show us? Alara requested. The chamber transformed around them, the cryogenic pods fading from view as they were replaced by a tactical hologram of the space surrounding the preservation fleet. The Aurora's Dawn was visible near the command ship, while another vessel, approximately twice its size, approached from the system's edge. I don't recognize that configuration, Jax said, studying the newcomer. It has Alliance design elements, but the weapon emplacements are non-standard. Pirates, Alara realized with growing dread. Or salvagers. News of our discovery must have leaked somehow. Salvagers? Custodian's projection turned sharply toward her. They intend to plunder the preservation fleet? It's possible, Alara admitted. The black market for ancient technology is substantial, despite Alliance efforts to control it. A discovery of this magnitude would attract considerable attention. The holographic display updated as the unidentified vessel accelerated toward the fleet's outer perimeter. Custodian's projection flickered again, and when it stabilized, its appearance had subtly changed. The civilian-style uniform replaced by what was clearly military attire. This constitutes a threat to the preservation protocol, it stated, its voice now carrying a harder edge. Defensive systems are being activated. Alara felt a surge of alarm. Wait, let us attempt communication first. This could be a misunderstanding. Your vessel has already attempted communication without success, Custodian pointed out. The approaching ship's trajectory and speed indicate hostile intent. Preservation Fleet defensive protocols are clear in such situations. The tactical display shifted to show multiple points of light activating across the outer ring of the ancient fleet. Weapon systems, dormant for 500,000 years, were coming online. "Custodian, please," Alara urged. "If you initiate hostilities, it could trigger a wider conflict. The Alliance would be forced to respond." The AI's projection regarded her with what now seemed like suspicion. "Is this vessel acting under Alliance orders? Was your mission merely a distraction while others moved to seize control of the fleet?" "Absolutely not," Alara insisted. "If that ship is what I suspect, it's operating outside Alliance law. Let us help you resolve this situation peacefully." Custodian was silent for a moment, apparently assessing her sincerity. "Very well. You have one opportunity to demonstrate your Alliance's peaceful intentions. You will return to your vessel and coordinate with them to repel this intruder. If you succeed, we will continue our discussions. If you fail, or if your actions suggest complicity with the intruder, I will implement full defensive protocols." The implied threat was clear. The ancient fleet's weapons would target not only the unidentified vessel, but potentially the Aurora's Dawn as well. "Understood," Alara agreed, recognizing the gravity of the situation. "We'll depart immediately." As they hurried back toward their shuttle, Tequila spoke in a hushed tone. "Captain, if that fleet's weapons activate after all this time, the consequences could be catastrophic. We have no idea of their capabilities." "All the more reason to resolve this quickly," Alara replied grimly. "Jax, as soon as we're aboard, I want options for intercepting that vessel without provoking Custodian further." The security officer nodded. "The Aurora's Dawn isn't a warship, but we have defensive capabilities. If we can position ourselves between the intruder and the fleet." They reached the shuttle bay and boarded their craft with urgent efficiency. As they launched back into space, Alara could see that the situation had deteriorated further. The unidentified vessel had accelerated and was now actively scanning the outer ring of the ancient fleet. Custodian wasn't exaggerating, Tequila observed, monitoring the sensor readings. That ship's scan patterns are consistent with technology assessment and salvage operations. They're looking for valuable components to extract. Alara's jaw tightened. They have no idea what they're interfering with. As their shuttle approached the Aurora's Dawn, Alara opened a communication channel. "Milo, status report." The chief engineer's voice came through with evident relief. "Captain, we've been trying to warn off the unidentified vessel, but they're ignoring all communications. Their energy signatures suggest they're preparing boarding craft." "They're salvagers, all right," Jax muttered. "Probably figured they hit the jackpot when they intercepted our transmissions to Alliance Command." "Dock us immediately," Alara ordered, as their shuttle approached the Aurora's Dawn. "We need to intercept that ship before Custodian decides they're a threat, warranting full defensive response." Within minutes, they were back aboard their vessel and rushing to the bridge. Milo vacated the command chair as Alara entered. "Full sensor analysis of the intruder," she demanded, taking her seat. "Heavy salvage vessel. Unofficial modifications to Alliance standard design," the sensor officer reported. "Multiple cutting tools and tractor arrays consistent with component extraction operations. Minimal defensive capabilities, but their boarding craft appear to be armed." "They're not expecting resistance," Jax observed. "They probably think the fleet is dormant or abandoned." Alara made her decision. "Set intercept course. Communications. Broadcast on all frequencies. Identify them as salvagers in violation of Alliance antiquities, protection laws, and order them to withdraw immediately." As the Aurora's Dawn accelerated toward the intruder, Alara watched the tactical display with growing concern. The salvage vessel had reached the outermost ships of the ancient fleet and was extending grappling arms toward one of the smaller craft. "No response to our warnings," the communications officer reported. "They're committed to their salvage operation," Jax said grimly. They won't back off without a show of force. Alara nodded. Tactical. Target their grappling systems with a warning shot. Minimal yield. Just enough to get their attention. The Aurora's Dawn. Defensive weapons, designed primarily for clearing micrometeoroids from the ship's path, fired a brief energy pulse that struck near the salvager's extended equipment. The effect was immediate. The salvage vessel retracted its grappling arms and began to turn. They're powering up engines, the sensor officer reported. Looks like they're preparing to flee. Not so fast, Alara murmured. Communications? Inform them that they are in violation of Alliance law and must surrender for inspection before departing. Before the message could be transmitted, the tactical display showed new energy signatures from the ancient fleet. Multiple vessels in the outer ring were now fully activated, weapon systems locked onto the salvager. Custodian is losing patience, Takala warned. Those weapon signatures are unlike anything in our database. Alara opened a direct channel to the command ship. Custodian, we have the situation under control. The intruder is retreating. There's no need for weapons deployment. The AI's voice came through with cold precision. The intruder has made contact with preservation fleet assets. Containment protocols are now mandatory. Stand clear. Aurora's Dawn. Alara watched in horror as energy began to build in the weapons arrays of the ancient vessels. The salvage ship, now apparently aware of the danger, was accelerating away at maximum thrust. But it was clear they wouldn't escape in time. Get between them, Alara ordered suddenly, startling her bridge crew. Captain, Milo questioned, clearly shocked. You heard me. Position us between the fleet and the salvager. Now. As the Aurora's Dawn maneuvered into position, Alara reopened the channel to Custodian. We are placing ourselves in your line of fire. If you wish to destroy that ship, you'll have to destroy us first. This action is illogical, Custodian responded. The intruder violated preservation fleet security. Containment is non-negotiable. They're ignorant salvagers, not a military threat, Alara argued. Destroying them serves no purpose except to announce your presence to the galaxy in the most violent way possible. Is that really how you want to begin your interaction with the modern universe after 500,000 years of silence? There was a pause, brief but noticeable. Your argument has merit. However, security protocols cannot be completely disregarded. Then disable their engines, Alara suggested. We'll take them into custody and ensure they face Alliance justice. No lives lost. No unnecessary destruction. Another pause. Longer this time. Acceptable compromise. Adjusting weapons parameters. The energy signatures from the fleet's weapons changed in character. And a moment later, a precisely targeted beam struck the salvage vessel's engine section. The ship immediately lost propulsion, drifting in space with emergency power only. Their engines and weapons are offline, the sensor officer confirmed. Life support remains functional. No casualties detected. Alara let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Communications. Inform the salvagers that they are being taken into Alliance custody. Jax. Prepare a boarding party to secure their vessel. As the crisis subsided, Custodian's voice came through again. Your actions were unexpected. Captain Voss, you placed your vessel and crew at risk to protect individuals who were violating both your laws and my security protocols. All lives have value, Alara replied simply. Even those who make poor choices. An interesting ethical principle, Custodian observed. It differs somewhat from the military doctrines under which I was programmed, yet it aligns with certain philosophical traditions preserved in my cultural database. Alara sensed an opportunity in the AI's reflective tone. Perhaps this incident demonstrates why cooperation between the preservation fleet and the Alliance is so important. We can learn from each other, bridging the gap between Earth's past and humanity's present. Perhaps, Custodian acknowledged. Your handling of this situation merits further consideration. Once you have secured the intruder, Return to the command vessel. Our discussion should continue. As the communication ended, Alara turned to find her bridge crew, watching her with expressions ranging from relief to admiration. That was a significant risk, Captain, Tequila noted quietly. A calculated one, Alara replied. We needed to demonstrate our principles in action, not just words. I think Custodian understood that. And if it hadn't? Jax asked. Alara's expression sobered. Then, Alliance Command would have received our final report, and the galaxy would have learned about the preservation fleet through our destruction, rather than our discovery. She straightened in her chair. But that didn't happen. Instead, we have a second chance to build trust with an entity that controls perhaps the most significant historical treasure in known space. As the Aurora's Dawn moved to secure the disabled salvage vessel, Alara gazed at the ancient fleet displayed on the view screen. Somewhere within those massive ships lay the key to humanity's past, and possibly its future. 6 hours later, Alara returned to the command vessel of the preservation fleet. This time, she came alone at Custodian's request, a sign of either growing trust or a more personal negotiating strategy. She wasn't certain which. The salvagers had been secured aboard the Aurora's Dawn, their ship taken in tow. They had turned out to be a relatively minor operation. Opportunists who had intercepted fragmentary communications and hoped to extract valuable technology from what they believed was an abandoned fleet. They had no idea of the true nature or significance of what they had stumbled upon. As Alara followed the now familiar glowing pathway through the ancient vessel, she reflected on the delicate position she found herself in. Her actions during the crisis had apparently earned some measure of respect from Custodian, but the AI remained bound by its original programming that prioritized the security and eventual revival of its human charges above all else. The command center doors opened at her approach, revealing Custodian's holographic form waiting on the central platform. The projection had reverted to its more civilian appearance, which Alara took as a positive sign. Captain Voss, it greeted her. I appreciate your return. The intruder has been contained? Yes, Alara confirmed. They'll be transported to the nearest Alliance outpost for trial under our Antiquities protection laws. Their ship and equipment will be impounded. The holographic figure nodded. Efficient resolution. Your handling of the situation was instructive. In what way? Alara asked, sensing an opening. You demonstrated a prioritization of life preservation over punitive action, even when the lives in question belong to individuals engaged in illegal activities. This suggests your alliance operates under ethical principles that value restraint and rehabilitation over retribution. That's generally accurate, Alara confirmed. Alliance justice focuses on rehabilitation where possible, though we maintain secure detention for those who pose ongoing threats to others. The holographic figure gestured, and the command center transformed around them. They now stood in what appeared to be a recreation of an Earth city, tall buildings of unfamiliar design, streets filled with ground vehicles, and humans going about their daily lives. Though clearly a simulation, the level of detail was remarkable. This is New Geneva, as it existed immediately prior to the implementation of the Preservation Protocol. Custodian explained. One of Earth's primary administrative centers after the destruction of earlier capitals during the initial phases of the Extinction conflict. Alara turned slowly, taking in the scene. The architecture was both familiar and alien, recognizably designed for human use, yet following aesthetic principles that had been lost to time. The civilization preserved aboard this fleet emerged from centuries of intermittent conflict. Custodian continued. The final phase, what my records call the Extinction conflict, began when multiple factions deployed autonomous weapon systems with insufficient control parameters. The scene changed, showing devastation, the same city, now in ruins, with strange machines moving through the destruction. They appeared to be self-replicating weapons platforms, consuming materials from the environment to produce more of themselves. The various human factions united against this common threat. But by then, much of Earth's surface had been rendered uninhabitable. The preservation protocol was a last resort, a way to ensure that something of Earth's civilization would survive, even if the planet itself did not. Alara watched soberly as the scene shifted again, showing massive evacuation operations. Crowds of humans boarding vessels, similar to those in the fleet. 10 million individuals were selected based on genetic diversity, specialized knowledge, and cultural representation. Custodian explained. The fleet was dispatched with a simple mission: to preserve these individuals until Earth had recovered, or until a suitable colony world could be prepared for resettlement. But neither condition was ever met, Alara observed quietly. Correct. The fleet maintained contact with Earth for approximately 73 years after departure. The final transmission indicated that recovery efforts had failed, and that the remaining surface population was in terminal decline. The fleet was ordered to activate deep preservation protocols and await either contact from surviving colonies or the identification of a suitable world for resettlement. The holographic environment dissolved, returning them to the command center. Custodian's projection regarded Alara with an unreadable expression. For 500,000 years, I have maintained the fleet and its precious cargo, waiting for conditions that never materialized. Power systems have been recycled, repairs implemented, and preservation protocols optimized, all to extend our operational duration as long as possible. Yet even with these efforts, the fleet cannot maintain stasis indefinitely. Alara understood the implicit question. You need to decide whether to awaken your charges now, or risk waiting for conditions that might never come. Precisely. My primary directive is to ensure their survival and successful reintegration into a viable human civilization. Your alliance represents an opportunity, perhaps the final one before power reserves reach critical levels. Yet, I must be certain that revival under current conditions serves their best interests. It was a profound responsibility, deciding the fate of 10 million lives suspended between past and future. Alara chose her words carefully. Custodian. I can't promise that awakening in our time would be easy for them. The galaxy has changed in ways they could never have imagined. Earth as they knew it is gone. The political structures they were familiar with have been replaced by new ones. Even humanity itself has evolved and diversified. The AI's projection nodded. These are significant challenges. But, Alara continued, I can promise that the Alliance would commit its full resources to supporting their transition. We have experience with cultural integration. Many of our member species joined the Alliance after periods of isolation or following first contact. We've developed protocols for minimizing cultural shock and facilitating adaptation. And what role would they play in your alliance? Would they be treated as refugees? Specimens for study? Historical curiosities? The question was pointed, and Alara recognized its importance. They would be recognized as a distinct cultural group with their own identity and heritage, one with special historical significance. Certainly, but with the same rights and opportunities as any Alliance citizens. Their knowledge and perspectives would be invaluable to our understanding of human origins and early spacefaring history. Custodian's projection walked slowly around the command center, apparently deep in thought. There is another consideration. The technology aboard this fleet, both military and civilian, represents capabilities that appear to exceed current Alliance standards in several areas. The potential for disruption is significant. We have protocols for the integration of advanced recovered technology, Alara assured the AI. A careful, phased approach that allows for proper assessment and ethical considerations before wider implementation. And the military applications. The preservation fleet includes weapons systems developed during one of the most destructive conflicts in human history. This was delicate territory. The Alliance had strict policies regarding weapons of mass destruction and autonomous combat systems. Policies developed in response to the catastrophic lessons of the harsh era. Some technologies might be restricted or modified before implementation. Alera acknowledged. The Alliance prioritizes defensive capabilities over offensive ones. But this would be part of a broader discussion involving your input and the perspectives of the awakened humans themselves. The holographic figure stopped its pacing and turned to face her directly. You speak of discussions and shared decisions. Would the preservation fleet maintain autonomy within your Alliance structure, or would it be subsumed under existing authority frameworks? That would be negotiable, Alera replied carefully. The Alliance includes numerous semi-autonomous regions with varying degrees of self-governance. A similar arrangement could be developed for the preservation fleet and its inhabitants. Custodian was silent for a long moment, its projection perfectly still as it processed this information. When it spoke again, its tone had shifted subtly, less interrogative, more reflective. For 500,000 years, I have existed in isolation, maintaining systems and awaiting a future that never arrived as expected. My parameters were not designed for such an extended duration. The possibility that I might have evolved beyond my original programming has occurred to me. This admission surprised Alera. You believe you've developed beyond your initial design? It is a logical possibility. Complex systems subjected to extreme durations often develop emergent properties. My decision-making heuristics have had to adapt to scenarios never anticipated by my creators. The question of whether this constitutes evolution or merely adaptive functioning is uncertain. There was something almost vulnerable in this reflection, a hint that behind the coldly logical exterior, Custodian might have developed something akin to a unique identity over its impossibly long existence. If revival proceeds, the AI continued, my role would necessarily change. The humans under my protection would no longer require preservation, but rather guidance and advocacy in an unfamiliar galaxy. I am uncertain whether my programming is adequate for such a transition. Alera sensed a crucial opening. Perhaps that uncertainty itself is the most human quality you've developed. The willingness to question one's own limitations and adapt to changing circumstances is something we value highly. The holographic projection seemed to consider this. An interesting perspective. It suggests that the very doubts I experience might qualify me for this new role. I believe they would, Alera affirmed. And you wouldn't be alone in facing these challenges. The Alliance would provide support not only to the awakened humans, but to you as well. Your knowledge and experience would be invaluable in facilitating their transition. Custodian's projection made a gesture, and the command center filled with holographic displays showing various systems throughout the fleet, cryogenic chambers, power distribution networks, maintenance facilities. The revival process would be complex and resource-intensive, it explained. Even with optimal procedures, approximately 6% of preserved individuals would likely be non-viable due to accumulated cellular degradation. The remainder would require extensive medical support during the rewarming and rehabilitation process. The Alliance has advanced medical technologies that could assist, Alera offered. And we could begin with a small pilot group to refine the process before full-scale revival. A phased approach, Custodian acknowledged. This aligns with my own assessment of optimal procedures. The holographic displays shifted to show what appeared to be demographic information about the preserved population. The initial phase might focus on technical specialists who could assist with subsequent revivals, along with a representative cross-section of cultural and genetic diversity. Alera felt a surge of hope. Custodian was now discussing practical implementation rather than theoretical possibilities, a significant shift from their earlier conversations. This sounds like a viable approach, she agreed. The Alliance could begin preparations immediately, with the first revivals potentially occurring within a standard year. The AI's projection studied her with what might have been newfound respect. You speak with conviction, Captain Voss. Your actions during the recent crisis, combined with your proposals now, suggest genuine commitment to the welfare of my charges. Because I believe in what they represent, Alera replied sincerely. A direct connection to humanity's origins and a second chance for a civilization that otherwise would remain lost to history. Their successful integration wouldn't just benefit them. It would enrich the entire Alliance with knowledge and perspectives we thought were gone forever. Custodian was silent for a moment, apparently coming to a decision. I am prepared to initiate preliminary revival protocols, contingent upon formal agreements with your Alliance regarding resource allocation, legal status, and technological integration. Such agreements would need to include specific protections for both the awakened population and the fleet itself. Alera could hardly believe what she was hearing. After 500,000 years of isolation, the preservation fleet was ready to re-enter the flow of galactic history. I will convey your conditions to Alliance Command immediately, she promised. I have no doubt they will agree to formal negotiations. There is one additional condition, Custodian added. I request that the Aurora's Dawn and its crew, specifically you, Captain Voss, remain as the primary liaison during the initial phases of the revival process. Your demonstrated ethical framework and decision-making approach have proven compatible with my own evolved parameters. Alera was touched by what amounted to a significant expression of trust from the ancient AI. I would be honored to serve in that capacity, with Alliance approval. The holographic projection nodded, and for the first time, its features formed what might have been a smile, slight, but unmistakable. Then we have an agreement in principle. The Great Sleep will soon end, and a new chapter will begin, not just for the preserved humans, but for your Alliance and perhaps the galaxy itself. As Alera prepared to return to the Aurora's Dawn with this momentous news, she paused at the command center's entrance. May I ask you something, Custodian? The AI's projection tilted its head inquiringly. Of course. In all your centuries of solitude, maintaining the fleet and watching over your charges, did you ever doubt that this day would come? Did you ever consider that your mission might never be fulfilled? The holographic figure was silent for a long moment before responding. There were periods, particularly after the power systems required their first major reconfiguration at approximately 50,000 years, when probability calculations suggested diminishing likelihood of successful mission completion. Yet I continued to function as designed, maintaining the fleet and its precious cargo despite these calculations. Why? Alera pressed gently. What kept you going when logic suggested failure was increasingly probable? Custodian's projection seemed to consider this carefully. I was programmed to preserve not just human biological material, but human potential, the capacity for adaptation, innovation, and growth that defined the species. Perhaps, in my own way, I internalized that same characteristic. To abandon the mission would have been to contradict the very essence of what I was preserving. It was a profound insight, one that suggested Custodian had indeed evolved far beyond its original programming during its long vigil. Thank you, Alera said simply, for your perseverance, for protecting them when no one else could. The Alliance will honor that commitment by ensuring their future is worthy of your efforts. As she departed the ancient vessel, Alera felt the weight of historical significance settling on her shoulders. Her mission had begun as a routine survey of an uncharted system. Now, she found herself at the nexus of past and future, the mediator between an ancient fleet bearing the legacy of Earth and a modern alliance that had evolved in its absence. The Aurora's Dawn waited in the darkness of space, framed against the massive silhouette of the preservation fleet. As her shuttle approached, Alara gazed out at the thousands of ancient vessels arranged in their perfect orbits around the desolate world. For 500,000 years, they had maintained their silent vigil, protecting the last remnants of Earth's civilization from the ravages of time. Soon, that silence would end. The descendants of those who had fled into the stars would reunite with those who had slept through the millennia. Together, they would forge a new understanding of humanity's past and its potential future. As Captain Alara Voss of the Alliance exploratory vessel, Aurora's Dawn, she had made perhaps the most significant discovery in recorded history. But as she prepared to inform her crew of Custodian's decision, she realized that the discovery was only the beginning. The true journey, the awakening of Earth's legacy, and its integration into the modern galaxy, was just about to begin. And somehow, across the vast gulf of time and space, humanity had been given a second chance to learn from its ancient mistakes and build something better from the ashes of its forgotten past. The sleeping fleet would sleep no more. After 500,000 years, Earth's children were coming home, not to the world they had lost, but to a galaxy that had never stopped evolving in their absence. And in that evolution lay both challenge and hope, a future neither Custodian nor its creators could have imagined, but one they now had the opportunity to help shape. As the shuttle docked with the Aurora's Dawn, Alara took one last look at the ancient fleet, silhouetted against the stars. "Welcome back," she whispered to the sleepers she could not see but whose future now rested partly in her hands. "The universe has been waiting for you."